Hey, hello, how are you? Welcome into another episode of Six Rotation. So happy to be here. I'm Daniel, he's Mick, and what a fantastic episode we have for you. It was a bloody weekend for the ranked teams around the nation. We've been waiting for a weekend like this to talk it over. As always, brought to you by SNA Sports, better equipment for a better game. And Mick, before I throw it over to all of these upsets, of course, we've got our top 10 for the AVCA, the top 25 as well, and we'll always be comparing that to the past NCAA committee's top 10 from a few weeks ago. But ahead of the big BYU USD clash this Friday, we are talking to Gabby Blossom, the Penn State transfer who has taken the reins as USD. They've spurted off 6 straight sweeps in conference play and are going to jump into this heavyweight battle with BYU on Friday. Mick, can't wait to talk to Gabby at the end of this episode, but how many teams thought they had easy weekends and then found themselves on the bad side of October 14, 15, 16?
It sure looked like all of them thought they were going to just roll in, and that didn't happen at all. Pacific upsets BYU, USC beats Oregon, LMU beats Pepperdine, Marquette almost beat Creighton. They won the first 2 but couldn't finish.
Well, that's a bit of an upset. Creighton at 21, Marquette at 16, reverse sweep in Omaha. Then Creighton survives DePaul in 5. Of course, the Boilermakers survive Indiana in 5 and then swept by Maryland as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams not playing well. Utah 3, Washington 0.
Woo.
I mean, just a smoking there. So I look at who's hot and who's not. And right now, it looks like Washington, Purdue, BYU are kind of struggling a little bit, and they all have big matches this week. So the team that's hot right now is USC. And they're playing Stanford this week for first place in the Pac-12, excuse me, and not even ranked in the top 25.
We'll get to that. Bit of a travesty. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Friday late night, UCLA Stanford. Sunday afternoon, USC Stanford. Should be a fantastic weekend out west. We'll have our best of the West for you in a little bit. How about Purdue and Nebraska Wednesday in West Lafayette? Quite a quick turnaround for Coach Shondel's young crew to try to bounce back from getting swept at the hands of Maryland and Mick. Right now, the West Coast Conference limping a bit with the LMU win over Pepperdine. This weekend truly could be winner gets the reins between BYU and USD.
You know, there might be a different focus on that, though. You might take the focus that LMU now is really starting to play, and maybe they have 4 teams that can compete, and that's not a prognosis, but it's something that could actually be happening, because each of the last 2 years, LMU seems to have come on about mid-October, and yet they haven't been able to quite finish. They're doing a great job coaching that team out there. So I think we should keep our eye on that. They may have 4 teams that can compete, especially with Pepperdine seeming to be struggling right now.
And then a few more headlines here. We had the midweek mania last week. 2 road Wednesday sweeps as Baylor took care of Rice and Ohio State swept through Minnesota. We have other news. Chanel Bramschreiber finally makes her Wisconsin debut as the Badgers look very strong, sitting there in the second place position in the Big Ten Conference. They were able to beat Michigan in 4, swept through their other opponent this weekend. Lastly, one other thing. One of your good friends, Hugh McCutcheon, stepping away after this season, Mick, and it's a surprising one as he just signed a contract through 2025.
Yeah, I haven't talked to Hugh, and I don't know what it's all about, but I've been watching his body language in the huddles. It's been a lot different this year than normally. This team might be wearing him out. I just don't know about that.
We also have a battle out in the AAC on Friday as UCF and Cincy go head-to-head. It's Houston, though, that holds their destiny in the AAC and in the Mountain West Conference. We decided we're going to flip this one around. We'll give some credit to the non-Power Fives right off the top because San Jose State sits 8-0 in the Mountain West, and they battle 7-1 UNLV on the road in Vegas on Thursday. That's going to be really fun. There's a 3-way tie atop the Big West Conference. As I was on the call, Mick, for a fun one, Cal Poly defeated Hawaii in 4 sets. Hawaii took the second set 33-31. Cal Poly bounced back at home to win the third and the fourth. So now it's Santa Barbara, Cal Poly, Hawaii, all sitting with one loss atop the Big West Conference. And then, of course, the Big East right now sits in Creighton's hands as Marquette and Creighton battle on the last day of the season, as do UCF and Houston. So those two conferences could come down to Thanksgiving weekend. But Mick, let's look at it now. We'll bring it up. The top 10 for the AVCA Coaches Poll this week. 1 through 8 stay confirmed. They sit pat. Texas battled back. Baylor went on a 10-1 run to win the second set. What were your takeaways from that match as Texas bounced back to win it in 4?
Well, that bothered me that Texas could give up 9 points in a row. I mean, a good team, they'll give up a run of 3 sometimes when they lose their focus, but they get it back quick. And when you get in a situation like that, either your team's not focused or I don't know what's going on, but strange. I
will say there were a couple people that hit my DMs this weekend with backlash against Texas. How could they give it up? How can that happen? For those that have been in the sport long enough, and you have, Mick, momentum is crazy. So it's really not something, unless you lose a match like that, Texas still won. Texas is still undefeated. They got every single first place vote. So it's not the end of the world on the road to drop a set like that. It's more impressive, in my opinion, for Skinner and O'Neal and some of those that struggled at the end of that second set to bounce back in the third and kind of easily brush aside a good Baylor Bears team that's going to take on Texas Tech on Wednesday in a big Big 12 matchup.
Again, I've said for some time that we think Texas's major opponent is Texas. And there, you saw a little bit of that. And I think that's the only thing we're looking at right now is to see if they can sustain and continue to get better. And, a slip like that is like you said, a slip, but we need to watch and see if they can shore that up.
Well, here we go. As you look at this top 10, you've got 2 versus 8 on Sunday. We have been waiting for the undefeated matchup in conference play between Pittsburgh and Louisville. That'll be on ESPNU in the Fieldhouse in Pittsburgh. Then 3 versus 11 or 12. Purdue sits at 12 now. Nebraska, Purdue on Wednesday. How about San Diego, BYU? Another top 20 matchup on Friday. This is going to be moving weekend for those golf fans out there when you really separate who is the stronger in the top of each conference, because we do have a couple good battles. Minnesota jumps from 10 into 9. Pittsburgh stays at 8. And then Georgia Tech pushes themselves up by 1 from 11 to 10. As we show you, let's look at the rest of the top 25, because it's nice to kind of open it up and talk about it. Kind of weird to see Creighton just sitting at 18 with Marquette at 19, despite the head-to-head win.
Yeah, the same with Washington just sitting at 15. I thought they'd lose 0-3 and get beat by a non-ranked team, that they'd have to go down. But no movement by those teams behind them. I thought they should have gone, and Oregon loses. Well, Oregon's lost 3 out of the last 4.
Yeah, they dropped 3 spots from 17 to 20. How about Pepperdine? They only dropped 2 spots from 20 to 22. Rice moves up despite getting swept by Baylor. The bottom of this top 25 is not making a lot of sense. Well, Houston jumps into the top 25. UCF is out, and Michigan gets beat and stays ahead of USC. And
BYU drops 5 spots, losing to LMU. I mean, 5 spots. That's a good conference battle right there.
Yeah,
so.
For Washington to stay ahead of, there's a lot of confusion up, and then you've got Purdue and Penn State smushed there. Florida looked really good against Mississippi State. That's a team, Mick, that is going to quietly stay under the radar, in my opinion. I'm going to keep shouting them out because of alma mater. But at the end of the day, the Gators are 15-3. That's a top 5 record in the entire Power 5 nation. And of course, you could talk about other teams. The SEC had a good weekend, though, Mick. Auburn shocked some people in their reverse sweep against Missouri. First win for Auburn at Missouri in nearly a decade.
Yeah, I'm not sure that was shocking, but that was certainly...
I think it was shocking to have them reverse sweep. You know what? We're still waiting for Auburn to show up, right? We're looking for the Auburn team that is going to beat good teams. And Mick, we might disagree here, but it's the same thing with Creighton, right? We talked off air. You kind of mentioned that Creighton maybe was disappointing this weekend. A win is a win in my book.
Right.
And a 5-set reverse sweep win is almost more impressive than having maybe a little bit of an easier road. And of course, everyone can disagree. Go ahead and shoot us your comments, folks. I love it. I love when they disagree with me, Mick. What were some other big takeaways you had from this weekend?
Well, I just thought that when I coached, October was the worst month of the season. First of all, you've got midterms, you've got travel, you've got all of these things, and you got football games and some things on campus that the kids want to participate in. And you've got to try to keep them focused as a coach. And this is the hardest month, I think, of all. The only people that this month is not the hardest for are the Stanfords and the UCLA people and the people on quarters that didn't start till the end of September. And then they'll get hit the end of October, the middle of November. That's when they really will get hit with this stuff. So if you really know something about the terms of the universities and how all the things that go on campus operate, this is just the hardest thing coaches have to do, is keep people focused, still allow their kids to be kids and be students on campus, and then bring them back and have them be top collegiate athletes.
So then as a coach, when you're coaching in October and there's a big loss, right? Let's say you put yourself in Dave Shondel's shoes. Swept by Maryland is certainly going to have wavelengths around the Midwest, because Purdue was looking like maybe the best team in the conference, right? It was Purdue, Nebraska, Wisconsin, and then there was a separation. Maybe Ohio State can, of course, throw their hat in that ring, especially after sweeping Minnesota. But do you kind of throw that aside if you're a coach and try to tell your team, hey, we're still in the hunt. We're 15-3 for Purdue's sake, and we're still top 20.
Yeah, you for sure. You don't dwell on those things. You don't say last week. You go next week right away, focus on the next thing coming, and then work on the little things that can get you back into that good rhythm and what you want to have happen. So, John Cook hates to go to Purdue. He hates getting in that little facility and having all those people yelling all the time. And Purdue coming in with just barely beating IU and then losing to Maryland. This is going to be a very interesting match to watch, just to name two of the teams.
So that's Wednesday night. Those are, we kind of highlighted some of the bigger ones: Baylor against Texas Tech, as well as Texas against Iowa State. That's all on Wednesday, 8 o'clock on Big Ten Network for Nebraska at Purdue. But Mick, let's talk a little bit about the West Coast here, because we've got USD BYU. And let me paint this picture for you fans in Southern California. This week of sports in San Diego is arguably the biggest week in the history of the city, in my opinion, for sports, because Tuesday and Wednesday, the San Diego Padres are at home against the Philadelphia Phillies in the NLCS. Right? First time in the NLCS since most of the residents for USD and UCSD and all of the students there were even born. And then you've got USD against BYU. UCSD faces Cal Poly. And I have to throw that one in there. But it's certainly a good time to be a California volleyball fan, because USC is hot. UCLA is staying relevant. And of course, when you look up and down, Stanford is still Stanford and will have the big matchups against their in-state foes. Where would you rank? Let's hear Mick's best of the West.
Well, I think, first of all, what's happened in the West is ball control is back. Hawaii got beat this last weekend, but they have one of the best ball control teams in the country. They just don't have arms. All right. And that's the way with several of the other schools out there, but they all have ball control now. They're all playing at a high level. It's just the ability to score. So when you look at the best teams, you have to say USD is still up there. I just don't know, though, how good the Pac-12 is, because they got off to a bad start. They didn't look very good. And now they're just beating up on each other. Every time you think somebody's going to claim first, Washington State beats them. Or every time somebody's
Utah throws it in, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Utah 3-0 over, and Washington didn't even look like they're there. Oregon gets hot, and then they lose 3 out of 4 in a row with one of the best freshmen in the whole country, hammering on the left side, Collier there. So I think the one that hasn't been seen is USC, and they slowly have just improved their defense now. They've had the offense all year. So this Stanford USC battle could determine who's number two. But geez, can you say that? Who's number two? I still think Stanford's got the people to be number two, but they're not playing necessarily at that level yet. So I go USD in the crowd, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, then you've got Oregon and Washington, and they feel right about even. But in what world can you, as a coach, tell me that USC is not a top 25 team? They're 7-1 in the Pac-12. They just beat Oregon. Oregon then turns around and beats UCLA the next day, which is an even more impressive for USC to go and beat Oregon. And of course, they have that split with Hawaii. You mentioned Hawaii. They've been without their libero, Taylor Ikenaga, the last two matches. 5-set win against Bakersfield, 4-set loss against Cal Poly. So that's obviously altering their passing and serve receive. So you have to feel like Hawaii is going to get right back into consideration to make the NCAA tournament. But, and I want to leave you with this, could the Big West steal a bid this season? Because Hawaii's RPI is sitting at around 50 right now. And if another team like Santa Barbara or Cal Poly wins that conference, or Long Beach, right? Long Beach has an RPI of about 100. So all three of those teams with triple digit RPIs, could Hawaii get an at-large bid just because of their name?
Well, you sure think that, but then if you look across the country, there are two teams, maybe three teams in the Sun Belt Conference that have under 50 RPIs. And if you look at some of the other conferences, there are, I mean, that Conference USA, RPIs there of Houston and
Houston's number 10 right now.
Yeah, I mean,
UCF 17.
I'm thinking as a coach, I'm thinking you better be below 43 or you can't be guaranteed a spot in this tournament. And,
wow.
And I mean that because there's so much even talent out there right now.
And how about this? We talked on the top about the Mountain West. UNLV is number 31. And if Bowling Green, for some reason, doesn't win the MAC, they're sitting at 29 right now. There's a lot thrown in. Arkansas is number 26. So the SECs might find themselves with 4 or 5 more teams than they had last year. They could be the Big 12 of the 2022 season because we saw the Big 12 pick up all of those noms last year. One more notable name, and I know you were talking a little bit about the Sun Belt. Who in the Sun Belt stands out to you? Because as I look through it, James Madison at 54, right as we sit right now, is the only team in the Sun Belt that really stands out in the top 50.
Well, I think you have to watch because James Madison's first year in the conference, and they really look good. But also first year in the conference, Southern Mississippi. And they don't look so good, but I saw their talent this weekend, and my goodness gracious, this is a sophomore-laden team. Then Coastal Carolina is always good, but South Alabama, as Jesse Ortiz out there, he put in a heck of a team last year. They won the conference, and of course, the perennial favorite is Texas State with Sean Hewitt coaching that group, and they've got a bunch of 6-year players there that are really good. Their RPI is good. Their schedule has been good, and they split with the James Madison. They just beat Southern Mississippi. They're going to finish with Coastal. So they have a tournament also, which is going to be just dynamic.
Well, Southern Miss is the 119th team in the RPI. Texas State 81, South Alabama 84, Coastal Carolina 88. I will correct myself though. Long Beach has bumped themselves up since the last time I looked. They're now sitting at the 60th RPI spot, while Hawaii has 51. But then you throw in the fact that all of these Power 5 teams are getting the love. Washington State 45, Northwestern 44, Texas Tech 42, Iowa State 48, Miami 49. And if you're going to go RPI heavy, then you're not going to be able to include some of those teams from the non-Power 5 that don't win their conference, like Hawaii, like a potential with Marquette Creighton. That's almost locked in, right? You're going to get both from the Big East. You're going to maybe even get 2 from the A-Sun right now because Kennesaw State is 35. And, you know, it's a toss-up whether, you know, Jacksonville State, they're 1 win away from the top of that conference. Mick, there's a lot to talk about. We are going to continue to give you guys all of the hubbub every week about the RPI and where that swings. And next week, what we'll do is a 1-month look back at the NCAA committee's top 10, where they are now and where they were back then. It does feel to me like a lot of these top 10 teams from the committee's opinions staying pretty pat. The only one that you really look at and you're like, man, how do they forget that is probably Wisconsin. Hard to leave Wisconsin out of the top 10 right now, but we'll look at that next week. For now, we're going to jump things over to Gabby Blossom, the new San Diego setter, on her transformation from State College to sunny Southern California in San Diego. And she's got the big matchup with BYU. Until then, we'll throw it over there. Thanks so much for watching. Joined now by the Torero setter, Gabby Blossom. Gabby, so happy to be with you. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Mick has been raving about USD all season long. He's been wanting to get you on specifically. And so I guess from the beginning of your journey across the country, starting at Penn State, what was the biggest thing that you had to acclimate to moving to San Diego?
Oh my gosh, the nice weather. It is nice all the time. The biggest adjustment getting out here, was just used to the nice weather. But I don't know, San Diego has been amazing. I am so lucky. This is like the perfect place to spend my last year. But it's definitely very different than being in State College, Pennsylvania.
And I'm sure a lot of people have to deal with the opposite, going from sunny to the snowy, but you definitely have that good vibe. When you have to give, let's say if you had to give a little piece of advice to anyone who's considering a transfer or having to change high schools or anything like that in the volleyball community, what's one or two things that you would say to them?
Yeah, my biggest advice is just be open to new experiences. This has ended up being one of the greatest experiences of my life. And then just develop relationships with people. I'm so lucky that I have the coaching staff I have and the teammates I have here. And I think, just be open to new experiences because it can be so eye-opening and life-changing.
Was there one moment either in the preseason or in the pre-conference play that you kind of looked up and you're like, okay, I kind of feel like I'm at home here? And was there maybe another transfer, right? You've got Layla with you, that's also a newcomer, and a couple other new faces in the program. Was there anything like that where you guys all kind of came together and started to bond a little bit more?
Yeah, something this program does is just develops relationships. We spend so much time with each other. We spend so much time like diving deeper into our relationships, and like it's something our staff really values and it carries down to our team. So I think preseason, like when you're in two-a-days, it's just a bonding moment all together. But this group is really special and I'm really lucky. I think when you transfer and you're a fifth year and you're a little bit older, it's a different experience. But this team was so welcoming and so open. And it's one of the reasons I fell in love with San Diego when I visited and decided to come here.
And you've definitely taken the nation by storm, and a lot of softball, setter fans as well have kind of flocked towards you. And I know Mick is one of the bigger fans. Mick, I know you've got a couple fun ones for Gabby here. So why don't you fire away in your setter corner?
Yeah, I do have a bunch of questions, but they're really for me more than they are for everybody else. So I was told by a couple of people on your campus that they could feel a difference in the volleyball program starting in the middle of the summer. And they didn't know what that was, but as they got closer to the start of the season, it seemed like there was a sense that you had won the support of your teammates and absolutely were leading at that point. Can you tell me if you had a feel for that, and if you agree or disagree with that, and maybe how that came about?
I think being a setter, you always have some leadership responsibility. It's, you run the offense. I think the team right now is so special because we have so many fifth years, and we do have a mix of, we talked earlier, transfers coming in, but we still have a really good group of people that have been here for 5 years and 4 years and stuff. And I think the leadership is something that so many people on our team take on in different roles. So yeah, I think I am one of the leaders. I'm older, I'm a setter, but I have so much help and support from the rest of my teammates. And then our coaching staff is just absolutely incredible at leading us and like giving us being role models like for us and like how to lead.
So let's switch to your system. I've watched you for a long time, and you probably don't know that, but I watch setters. You know, we all have our setters card, right? We're all in a group. And if you've ever been a setter, you appreciate setters, you value setters, you watch them closely, and you can kind of feel things. But I sense this is different for you. I sense that Jim Petrie's offense is different in some way. Can you tell me? And when I say different, it seems to be perfectly suited for your strengths. Do you feel that way? And is it different, or am I just seeing things?
No, it is a lot faster than anything I've ever set. In system, out of system, it's a lot faster. So when I got here in the spring, I had to get the ball out of my hands faster. I held the ball too long to run the offense that USD runs, and it's something I'm still working on. Alfie has been amazing and so patient with me, because as any setter knows, that's not the easiest adjustment to make, but I'm like so lucky we stuck with it. Running this offense is so fun. There are so many different pieces. I've had to like think and learn more than I ever have in my entire life playing volleyball in this season, and just really grateful to have the coaching staff that, you know, lets me learn and work with it.
All right, let me switch you to defense. So I have seen you all over the court. Your body has been on the floor more than you've been on your feet. And the ball almost always comes up. In fact, I would use you as an example to all the young setters on how you absolutely put your head down and you go for balls when they try to tip you and try to take you out. How is your body? Can you continue to do this the whole season and hold up? Is this pretty challenging physically?
No, I love defense. I think my least favorite thing in volleyball is like when someone tips something and scores, honestly. So to me, I love defense. We work on it all the time. So no, defense is like just a mindset. And I think most players in the country, it's just, it's a mindset. You don't feel it. Maybe the next day your body hurts a little bit, but we're so used to it at this point. And defense is fine. So I'll take a couple floor burns and bruises to get a ball up.
Last question, real quick. If you had to shut your eyes and set the next ball, who do you have the best contact with that you know if you set it that she would be able to hit it?
Oh my gosh, I have so many. I would say anyone I have confidence in that I can set with my eyes closed and they'd figure out a way to get a kill, whether the set was good or not.
Well, actually, that actually looks like that because you guys have 4 people that score on a regular basis pretty high, and you distribute pretty good. And the 5th one can score if you can get her the ball that many times. But that's pretty good. Well, I've appreciated you. I want you to keep doing this. It's fun for everybody to watch you play with your heart. I think the system absolutely is perfect for you, and good luck to your team. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So, Gabby, let's talk West Coast Conference here, because obviously the Pepperdine win over Washington in the beginning of the year was big. And then they come back and they battle you guys tough on opening night. You have a tough one with LMU. I wanted to ask you first, little loosener, what's your opinion of the Thursday, Saturday schedule compared to the Friday, Saturday you had in the Big Ten?
Yes, the Thursday, Friday is amazing. The back-to-back was nice, but in the Big Ten, you can charter flights. So it's a little different. We fly commercial, so it would be hard to play back-to-back nights. But Thursday, Saturday has been really amazing. It allows us to Wednesday really focus for Thursday, and then Friday we get a full day to prepare for our next opponent Saturday.
All right. Well, when people are watching this, it's BYU week. You've got them. We've been circling it on our calendars as volleyball fans. Friday night at home for you guys. Is that something where every match has been viewed upon versus Santa Clara, versus San Francisco? Or is it, okay, we've got BYU circled here in the middle. We've got them again later in the year. That's a different animal. And of course, for you and the other newcomers, it's your first time facing Olmsted's crew.
Yeah, so every game matters. Every game's important. At the beginning of the week, that's our focus, but we also have like a month schedule where we have goals that we have to accomplish and get better at. But obviously BYU is like such a big rivalry. I'm excited. I've never been a part of it, so I think it'll be really fun. Obviously BYU is always really good, so games like that are always just so exciting. It's, I think, why college athletics and college volleyball is so fun, and the fact that we're home is going to be really exciting.
Yeah, are you going to fill that arena, Gabby? Are you going to fill the arena?
I hope so.
You guys need to fill that arena. You need to get out there.
I
and
know.
get those
The
students
issue is
in
the
there.
beach is like 5 minutes away, and people love going to the beach.
Yeah, tell them the beach is inside Friday night, and it's BYU. It's BYU Beach.
Are you?
Yeah, I'll try.
Gabby, are you someone that kind of grew up watching a lot of volleyball? Do you still in your free time, do you watch it, or are you more locked in as a player as opposed to as a fan?
I'm a little bit more a player now. I grew up watching it. I still watch it all the time. I still have so many friends at different schools, and it's nice because Sundays now I get to watch a lot of them, and I'm definitely a fan. There's so many good volleyball teams and so many players doing incredible things, and watching it is really cool.
And then one of the last ones I have for you here. Last week, we talked to Logan Eggleston, who kind of grew up in an area that wasn't necessarily volleyball at all times. She played basketball in Nashville growing up. You grew up in the Midwest as well, St. Louis, where it's not the hub like Indianapolis might be for volleyball. What was your experience like? And were your parents kind of the volleyball heads that a lot of different players' parents were, and everything like that?
Yeah, so my dad was a basketball coach. So I played basketball my whole life to keep him happy. And he didn't know really anything about volleyball, which is nice. Sometimes he'll still say stuff. I'm like, Dad, that's not right. I've been playing for how many years now? You got to learn. But my mom played volleyball in college, so she knew, which has been nice. And then I played for a small club most of my life. It's not a club anymore, but my last few years I played for Rockwood Thunder, which is a bigger club now, but my club team was basically the same since I was 11 until the time we were 18. And they were my best friends. We grew up together. They are the reason I love volleyball and have the passion I have for it now. So I had a really, really amazing club volleyball experience. It definitely wasn't Texas volleyball or California club volleyball, but St. Louis volleyball was really fun, and it allowed me to have like the most amazing experience growing up playing.
I love that. Well, as a setter, there's no better way to get a connection with your hitters than dealing with them for 7 straight years, right? So that's certainly a good bond. And back-to-back basketball players, we've got Mick, coached by their dads. So that's a good trend for you guys playing at home that want to play volleyball, maybe in basketball right now. And then one thing we like to ask a lot of back row players, and you mentioned you love your defense too, who is the one hitter, whether this year or in your time in the Big Ten, that you just was like, wow, that hurt? And it more than anyone else, is there one that pops up to you whose swing was just a bomb?
I have a couple. I would say I played Stanford multiple times throughout my career at Penn State. Catherine Plummer, that was someone that was like, oh, that doesn't feel great, but the best feeling when you actually dug it. Stephanie Samity, she was someone that I liked played right back a lot better than I liked being right front when she hit. She had a nasty shot that you weren't ready, and right front you were going to get hit in the face. But there's so many. I think that's the cool thing about volleyball now is everyone can hit a hard ball. It's just so intense. But when I think of two people, my arms are probably bruised after the game, I would probably say those two.
I think those are two of the more popular answers that we've had over the years. So Gabby, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thanks for having me.
That'll wrap things up for Mick and Gabby. I'm Daniel Gilman. This is Six Rotations.